A fox knows many things, but a hedgehog knows one important thing. It's one important thing. It's one important thing.
Welcome to the Morning Hedgehog podcast, where we explore the business ideas that shape your success. Here are your hosts, Ira Gardner and Glynns Thomas.
So welcome back for another episode of the Morning Hedgehog. How are you today, Glynns?
I'm great and happy to be here.
Fantastic. And what are we talking about today?
Well, today, the big idea, the one idea that I wanted to talk about today is that we are not the heroes to our customers, and actually our customers are the hero. And I'll go into what that means, how that dictates how you talk to your customers, how it changes your marketing and your relationships with your customers.
That sounds so interesting. I can't wait. So are you going to have some slides for us to look at today?
Yes, I've got lots of slides.
Fantastic. All right. So let's go. I think that's one of the unique things we're doing here is we're really giving, in a podcast format, we're giving workshops really for each episode. So I
Yeah.
love the fact that you've got these great slides filled with important information. So let's take a look.
This is about how our clients are the heroes, not us. And as I see it, a fairly typical way that people market their business is to position your business as the solution to solve your clients' problems. For example, what comes to my mind easily are plumbing ads. Got a leak, we'll come to your rescue and we'll fix it. And I visually see in my head a big, strong man wearing a cape. And again, we come across this type of marketing all the time out there. You have a problem, we can fix it for you. It's not a bad way to market, but there's another way to market that I believe can be more effective and less boastful. So today's big idea is about shifting your perspective of marketing yourself as the hero who's going to save your client's day by offering great images, and instead see your clients as the hero. And we, the photographers, are their guide to help them get to what they want. They are the ones who get to shine and receive kudos for the amazing images you create for them. And this shift in how we see our role is how we talk on our marketing campaigns and how we talk to our clients and how it can have a positive effect on our business. You might have heard, sometimes it's referred to as customer-centric marketing. So that's involved in this too. Let's move on. So you've heard us talk about this before, but there's the business book, Building a Story Brand, Clarifying Your Message So Customers Will Listen by Donald Miller. And basically our customers see themselves as the hero. And Miller talks about how actually we all feel that way. We all see ourselves as the main character in the adventure of our own lives. From the time we wake up till we go to bed, it's a wild and crazy ride, kind of like an adventure novel or movie. And our customers see themselves the same way. And while part of them may wish that someone could sweep in and fix all their problems, really they want to control how that happens. Really, we all want to be the hero that makes it happen, and we just want a guide or maybe even a genie that's going to help us get there. So having a problem fixed for you can have a short-term feel-good quality to it, but by being the actual hero can have a longer-term, farther-reaching feel-good quality to it. And that's what we want our customers to experience. So Miller's book is based off of what is called the hero's journey. And I'm aware that Joseph Campbell brought this idea up in the 1940s, but there were others before him. I remember, Ira, you mentioned someone before him.
Well, Carl Jung and Freud and, yeah.
That's right.
So Campbell was resurrecting the collective unconscious ideas and the archetype ideas that Jung came up with. And then, of course, George Lucas really brought that to the forefront of our awareness through the development of the Star Wars series. It really operates on archetypes. And then when you look back, even the original Wizard of Oz movie, as technically unsophisticated as it is now, it is still something that mesmerizes and hooks you because it's operating on this idea of the hero's journey and these archetypes. So this is really powerful stuff you're talking about, because it really operates at the subconscious level of our customers, of helping them see their successful resolution to their problem.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it also, I think, helps people understand that marketing isn't a bunch of individual tactics. And that's another part of this presentation I really want people to understand, is what I see a lot of people think that you send out this marketing tactic and you do this marketing tactic, but you're not finishing your marketing. So as we go through this, that will make more sense. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but uh, there's a beginning to, and an end that goes beyond each individual marketing tactic. And when you understand that, your marketing becomes more effective. You get more out of it. But let
So
me
are
go
we
on
trying
here.
to, I just want to ask a question real quick.
Yeah.
So with this customer-centric marketing, are we trying to essentially script their journey to as part of our creating our customer service experience all the way through from beginning to end?
Yes. I think that's exactly what we should do. Um, Doing so uh, actually sets up a more comprehensive marketing plan. When you understand what the path is that you want to send your customers through from beginning to end, it then opens up your mind to seeing more opportunities of where you can be marketing to them, um, and reiterating certain marketing messages. It pulls them through the purchase decision cycle. I'm getting ahead of myself here, but uh, it makes for a more comprehensive marketing plan, because you go from beginning to end instead of just doing a bunch of one-off marketing tactics. And did I answer your question?
You
Sorry, I
did,
lost.
and you made me really excited, because actually just changing the frame of mind, how we think about this. I've been doing a lot of work in the area of film development and video production, and just thinking about screenplays and scripting. And one of the big things about the hero's journey is you take the hero out of their ordinary and put them into the extraordinary. And so when I just think about that, for me, the first opportunity might be for me to take them out of their existing world by bringing them into my studio and having that wow factor of an incredible transformation of, like, what is that environment like that's going to take them out of their normal world into this new adventure that we're bringing them on. And I know that the studios that I have admired over the years absolutely have this magnificent quality. In fact, I'm remembering studio photographer named Nick Folger. It was an amazing gentleman, classically trained portrait photographer from Germany. And he opened up a studio a block away from our studio. And he renovated it to where it was a magical kingdom experience for every family that walked in there. Their children had a castle. They had a beautiful outdoor setting. And the minute you step foot on the property, you had this, wow, what's going to happen next? And he just did such a fine job. So I admire the studios that create that magical transformation of out of the ordinary into the extraordinary.
Yes, that is a great way to put it. And it doesn't always have, so for those who are listening, it doesn't always have to be, oh, well, I don't have a studio, therefore I can't provide that wow factor. There's lots of different ways to do it. Um, and so you have to figure out what that path is. But let me get into it. Okay, so I don't know, we've been talking about this for a while, so I just want to make sure I'm making it clear to our listeners, because you and I know about Donald Miller's book here. But so Joseph Campbell talked about how myth stories followed a similar pattern, where there's a hero who's called to an adventure. And if you look at modern day, what you were just talking about, adventure movies, they still follow the same pattern. So as we get into it, there should be a lot that you can recognize. So in Donald Miller's book, though, he's talking about clarifying our messages for customers. So he's taken this adventure story pattern and applies it to the path that a customer takes when interacting with a company. And then I'm going to take us through how you apply that to your actual marketing plan and tactics. So let's go through to the next slide. If I can remember how to, here we go. So the first step we need to understand as marketers is who is our hero? In other words, who is our target audience that you sell your photography services and products to? And you likely have more than one. So for the purpose of this webinar or this webcast, whatever we call it, choose one in your mind. I think that'll be helpful.
Well, and I'll throw in there this idea of really when you are developing your hero story, your hero's journey, you're creating an avatar for just one segment of your marketplace. And it could be even one product line but you're just creating an avatar of who is this person, and you're trying to put yourself in their mindset of what is their problem and what are the steps they're going to need to take to solve that problem.
Absolutely. And if I don't say this later on, I'll say it now. So what I teach my marketing students is basically this consumer purchasing path, which is something I'm going to overlay to this hero's journey. And if you create this for each of your customer segments, that's essentially, that's a great start to a comprehensive marketing plan. But you, again, like you were saying, you do it based on each of those customer segments. And you may have overlap for your other customer segments, but still, when you try to put it all together, there are holes, things get missed. But if you do it for each individual customer segment, it's just much more thorough. I don't know if that makes sense at this point until
It does
we've
to
gone
me,
through all of
because
this.
also when you're segmenting your market, you come to realize that there are so many opportunities, there are so many prospective customers that you can't possibly try to get them all. And when you start really honing in on this avatar of who your target market is, you realize that there's really a lot of opportunity out there within that small niche market. And so I think you'll realize that less is more, because you'll be more focused on creating this incredible experience for each of these niche markets that work, that your work fits the most.
And I think that really also falls under your business plan as well. If I've talked about how I specialize in headshots, and then I do some business branding photography too. And while that sounds really niche, I can offer a lot of different things to that same type of client. So I kind of want to go back and say, instead of niching in a genre, it's really about niching to a customer segment.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right. And in fact, one of the links I'll put in the show notes is this book called The One Page Marketing Plan, where you basically map out. Have you read that one?
A long time ago.
Oh, it's a great book, because really what you're about to take us on, you get to rinse and repeat for each customer segment that you want to work with. And then you'll find out very quickly that you have to pick and choose and prioritize which one you're actually going to put into action first. But I don't want to, let's get moving on here, but we've got some great resources. And the idea is that you can build these avatars and build this hero journey for each segment, each customer segment, that then gives you very concise, clear plan of action for your marketing.
Absolutely. Okay. So I think we talked about this in our last webcast, but from the book, The Personal MBA by Josh Kaufman, all human beings have core human drives. So this is a great time to bring that into this first step. So for portraiture, that is often the human drive to bond. They want to feel valued and loved by forming or strengthening relationships with others. Family portraits can strengthen a feeling of connection, belonging, and love. They may also want to look attractive and to be well liked or highly regarded. Maybe having portraits that freeze a particular time in their lives can be a forever reminder of what they love and feel bonded to the most. So if you do family portraits, maybe that becomes what is the problem that your hero wants to solve. And you can have more than one. So maybe that same audience has the core human drive to acquire. So beautifully framed portraits, albums, and other tangible products may encourage this interest. They would be proud to show off incredible portraits in their home and share with loved ones. Maybe they also have the core human drive to feel. Adventure portraits in the wild, like photographer Charlton Churchill creates. I don't know if you remember a couple years back, he was all over the internet for doing the engagement portraits up on some big, super famous mountain. Was it Everest? I can't remember.
Well, that one's big and famous.
Yeah, but it was something
Yeah.
like this, and she was in her wedding gown, and he was in his suit, and they might have been out on base camp or something. And I met him at Imaging USA, and it turns out he actually lives locally, and he did a presentation at my local PPA guild. But certainly what he does appeals to people's need for sensory stimulus, intense emotional experiences, pleasure, excitement, and entertainment. So experience of being photographed by someone like him is something that they look forward to. So I'm just trying to give, using core human drives is a way to help you figure out what problems your hero might want to solve.
Well,
And it
and
just needs to be one.
we don't sell our work just upon the material product features and benefits. We sell it based on emotion. And so we have to get inside the heads, hearts, and minds of our target market to find out what is the emotional hook that they need from us in order for us to be able to deliver the right product and service to them.
Absolutely. So moving on, step 2 is, what transformation do you promise? And that's what you were talking about, bringing people into your studio is the beginning of that. So I like to think of the situation before they receive their photographs and their problem or the core human drive that they want to resolve, and then think of what they will have after they have their new photographs. So if you were to sort of portray a before and after of their mind, that is the transformation you are promising. So let me give you an example. If your main target audience are mothers of newborn babies and their core human drive is to bond and to feel, they may want to create beautiful portraits of themselves as loving mothers and of their beautiful new baby for them to share with their child when he or she is older, as well as to appreciate now, share with family and friends, and to create, which basically creates additional bonds of love and admiration for them. And they're also maybe looking forward to the experience of having a photo shoot that's all about them and their baby. This is a special event that doesn't happen very often in one's lives, and so they're looking forward to it, even if they might even be nervous about it. So their before in their mind might be something like, I'm so excited for this new baby. I want to have amazing portraits taken, like the beautiful ones I see of mothers and families having a quiet and touching moment with their infant so that I can show this off to our family. And I'm excited for the opportunity to have a professional shoot done and have an expert create this for us. And then what might they feel or think or believe after their experience with you? It might be something like, this was even better than what I had hoped for. The photographer completely understood my exhaustion with a newborn. She handled everything from making sure the temperature of the room was warm so the baby could relax. It wasn't a huge, overwhelming production, but actually calming and lovely. She made me feel so beautiful, even though I felt pretty awful. I was completely blown away by the portraits. They were everything I dreamed for. Showing us as a loving family, I will treasure these forever. The grandparents will be thrilled to receive some of these as gifts, and I can't wait to show them off on social media to all my friends. So, this before and after exercise is something that we used to do at ad agencies in our creative briefs. And it may seem like a no-brainer if you listen to it. You're like, yeah, of course. But going through the exercise of doing that, I believe is truly powerful, because you're going to come up with things that you might not have thought of. And writing it down creates the goal. We know that we need to create goals, and if we create goals, then we're much more likely to achieve them. So if you create this, what does my typical target audience probably thinking, including all the hurdles of why they may not contact a photographer, and then put together what you hope and dream within reason. What do you hope your absolute ideal best customers are going to walk away feeling and believing and telling other people's? That sets up what that transformation and what that experience is that you're going to give them.
So just real quick, I just have to share with you what went through my mind as you were expressing all these wonderful transformations about a newborn photo shoot. I find myself thinking about what would have sold me at the time that my son was born. My initial feeling was doubting and questioning, would I be a good father? And the idea of, gee, if I could see a portrait of me holding my baby and see how perfect that moment was, I think that would have been a huge gift, just to
Mhm.
alleviate that initial concern over, am I going to be good at this? So I start thinking about all these subtle niche markets, and then I've worked with a photographer that specializes in documenting births, whose niche market was postpartum depression, helping mothers bond through these portraits. But it was also addressing a very underrepresented segment of the market, because mainstream says childbirth is this perfect harmonious thing, when in fact, for a lot of people, it's a very scary thing. And so
Mhm.
I love just the way that I could start relating and start building this whole messaging around, I could see the commercial, if you will, of what the internal dialogue of the hero, our customer, would maybe go through.
Right. And you brought up another point that I was thinking. Um, I was just giving the example of a newborn, and I assume, I'm not a newborn photographer, that the wife is the main driver for wanting a photographer, hiring a photographer, and having that relationship. But the fathers are absolutely a part of it, and they need to be happy too.
Mhm.
So, maybe that's not a, when you write your before and after, uh, maybe the part of the fathers isn't a huge part, but I love the idea of including that in there too, of what you want them to feel and experience and believe after it's all been done. Because again, this sets you up for making sure that you're making them happy, and that you're doing, because it will just bring ideas to the forefront. Oh, I should make sure that the fathers have this, in the studio. I don't know. I don't want to be stereotypical, but certainly having a few small surprises for them. I don't know, beer, have,
Absolutely,
a
but the
game
thing
on.
is, you can start to segment your market even more concise to speak more directly, and you can weave these narratives into your marketing. And that's where you said earlier, it's not one thing; it's the combination of things, and it's the combination of marketing messages that maybe builds this composite experience of saying, "Wow, this is the place to go for newborn photography."
Absolutely. Okay, so, and I actually, here's that list again. which is the core human desires that I took out of the book, The Personal MBA. And so it's to acquire, to bond, to learn, to defend, to feel. And successful businesses tend to sell some combination of these. And so our job as marketers is to know which ones we are selling and to clearly explain how we're going to help our heroes get there. And we don't necessarily have to be super upfront about this. Hey, get some newborn photos of you so your family's going to like you better. It's not what we want to say, but we do want to understand that they may not consciously understand that, but us understanding that unconscious desire helps us help them get what they want. And Ira, I know in the last webcast, you were talking about a different set of drivers that were pretty similar to these. So this isn't necessarily the end all be all of all.
Yeah, and I'll add that to the show notes again this week too, because it's the, and actually I was wrong. There are 32 value propositions. I went back and looked it up and I'm like, wow, this is incredible. And it's this pyramid of value that has looked at what are the emotional drivers that people are investing in when they invest at different price points and different product segments.
And it's just making me think this is why one of the many reasons why I think photography and marketing are so closely related. There's lots of tools out there and none of them are the one and only right way to do it, right? So whether you you use this list of human drivers, you use the value proposition list, there's a lot of different tools out there.
Or the core values index.
Core value index, absolutely. So exploring, understanding all these different tools and coming up with your own creative way of definition of who you are and what you do is what great marketing is all about.
And if you start with the emotion that you're trying to convey, then the creativity of how to present that through your marketing materials just it comes alive. And so often we start the other way around, as we start with the product category and we start with what we want to sell. You know, I think about the days of when we printed out 8x10 units and I was wanting to sell 4 4x5s or 2 5x7s, and I didn't really care if my customer only wanted one. Well, that was because I was having to buy a sheet of paper no matter what, right? And I was starting from the product and working backwards, whereas we're saying start with the customer and the emotion and then build your marketing experience around that.
And what you've been talking about, the core value index, start with the emotion, what they want to solve, and then understand how you provide that, because the solution to what they're looking for can come in many different forms. So you have to find out how you deliver it, which is your unique brand. I know it can sound really confusing because there's just so many different ways to ping pong through this, but it's the same in photography, right? We learn in the beginning how to set up certain different lighting situations, and you realize the more you learn, the more there is to know. And it can seem overwhelming in the beginning, but as you learn more and as you learn different lighting techniques and you learn why the lighting is done the way it is, that's when your creativity just soars. So it's the same with marketing. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the third step in the hero's journey, which is how are you going to call them to action? And in marketing, this is typically, what is your call to action? What is the next step you want them to take? And as I've said in a previous webcast, ask for it directly. It's never implied. In the fourth step of the hero's journey is, how does the hero's story end in success? So I'm going to take the Star Wars movie as an example, and I like to use the first one that was released in 1977, A New Hope, because I know that one the best. So step one in this slide here, our hero was Luke Skywalker. And his problem was that he was bored on the desert planet with his aunt and uncle. He felt unfulfilled, and that he was capable of more in life and being part of something bigger. In step two, he meets Obi-Wan Kenobi and later Yoda, who do tell him he is capable of more and that he can be a part of something bigger, and that they will train him to transform him into a Jedi, and he could help in the war against the Imperial forces. So in our marketing, again, we are the guides. So we are the Obi-Wan Kenobi or the Yoda. And our heroes are, again, the customers. In step three, how will you call them to action? Luke, if you remember, was not sure he wanted to get involved in the war, but he was very interested in becoming a Jedi, so he starts training. He's partially committed, but then his farm is destroyed and his aunt and uncle are murdered by Imperial stormtroopers. Once again, the call to action is presented to him to join the rebel forces, and this time he accepts. So
And his whole normal world has been transformed. He's been thrust out of the norm into this new adventure.
Right. So he's somewhat forced into this, although he could have said no, right? And I'm sure other people in the same situation would have said no. But we certainly hope our customers are not put into such a drastic situation.
Well, what's interesting about this is that in all heroes' journeys, the hero is generally reluctant, as are your prospective customers. And so there's always going to be a hesitance, and we have to help guide them.
Exactly. And so when I overlay this hero's journey with the purchase decision cycle, you'll see what we can do to help that along. And then in step four, how does the story end in success? For Luke, he became a Jedi. He succeeded in destroying the Death Star. He did become part of something bigger than himself. And that was his happy ending. Luke was the hero. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda helped him get there, and they were his guides along the way. Now, I've added
guide on the side.
Sorry?
They were the guides on the side.
They were the guides on the side. So I've added 2 more steps to the hero's journey because the story of Star Wars didn't end when Luke Skywalker destroyed the Death Star, and it didn't begin when he met Obi-Wan Kenobi. There was an ongoing cycle of Jedi Masters keeping balance in the universe from evil. And because Jedi Masters get called to action repeatedly, I added this step 5. How will you call them to action again? And for us photographers, that means how are you going to get them to purchase again? Because that's a great business model, is creating something that you can get repeat purchases from. And then I also added step 6 is how are they going to help you recruit others? For Luke Skywalker, it was how he could encourage other people. He became a legend, and just him becoming a legend helped recruit others. Other people wanted to be like him, other people who knew him.
And
But in your sorry?
And he became a teacher.
And he became a teacher. That's right. For your photography business, that's going to be how can you get your customers to refer other people over to you. And then those people those new people coming in that got referred to you, they end up right back at step number 1. And this becomes a circular situation. That's one way that marketers define this, is a circular pattern. I like to define it that way. It doesn't have to be that way, but so moving on. So I just want to summarize what I've talked about so far, which is taking your marketing from saying, I'm the awesome hero that is here to save you, to instead, I'm your trusted and capable guide that is going to help you succeed. It is a more believable and effective way to get people to want to work with you. Make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's powerful information, really powerful. I have to get my ego out of the way and make the customer the primary character in this story.
It makes, and because we are a service business, it really ties in with that, I think, even more so, which is when we make them the hero, it's really about how we're going to service them so that they get the kudos, they get to shine, they get to have this success.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that so often, and I've been guilty of this, so often I'm so excited to share what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, why I'm doing it. And the reality is that's a hobby. And it's not until I show the customer and those testimonials and engage the customer narrative into my marketing material of they're the hero, this is what problem they needed to solve, and this is how they went about choosing to hire me, and this is what the transformation was afterwards, and how they want to share it with their friends and family to refer people to me. It's like you feel kind of like, God, I've wasted so much time focusing all my marketing on what I do rather than what my work does for others. And I think
Yes.
that's the critical message today, is this idea of marketing needs to focus on what your work is doing for others in a
Yes.
way that engages the target market, your customer, to think, to imagine themselves going through this hero's journey with you.
Exactly. And again, I want to say, if you've been marketing like more like you're the hero, again, it's not a bad way, but what I want to introduce people to is what I think is a better way, a more effective way. And actually, I think it helps improve our own happiness in what we do, because when we start to focus on how it's helping our customers, man, that feels good. I mean, if I'm getting a testimonial that says, wow, I was really nervous coming in to get a headshot, I really didn't want to do it, but my boss told me I needed an updated headshot, I'm going to start doing some more speaking engagements, but I went in and Glennis made me feel so comfortable. And I just felt like I was chatting with a friend. And then she was so collaborative, and I got to give input and tell her what I liked and what I didn't like. But really, and so I had a headshot that I was proud to use and not embarrassed to use. But really, what happened that I wasn't expecting is, once I posted on social media, all the love and attention I got from my friends and family and coworkers and colleagues blew me away. You would have thought I was a rock star. I've received a testimonial like that.
Well,
But
and that's where I think what you're talking about right now is so appropriate for people to go back and revisit our episode about developing your customer testimonial process, because that is really going to help you figure out what this marketing message needs to be, because you're going to go back and you're going to listen to what are people saying this work has done for them, how have they been transformed, and you can start to work backwards in developing your copy to be in alignment with your customer's desired experience.
exactly. And for me, as a photographer who wants to serve other people, my heart just soars when I hear stuff like that. I'm just like, yes, that is just, it in a way, it probably becomes part of my why. I haven't studied that, but or thought too deeply about it, but it improves my happiness about my business as well. So it has all sorts of benefits to it. I also would say, if you're not getting comments in your testimonials about how it's benefiting people, I would, when you do ask for testimonials, which I think we should, um, ask people to talk about how it benefited them.
Yeah, yeah. There's one other thing I was thinking about. Oh, so I have one other idea about this too, is I really think this hero's journey, it's helpful to imagine it as this little mini movie going on in your head.
Mhm.
And is it a good movie? Does it make a compelling story? And I think that's a good way to gauge the effectiveness of our marketing messaging is, does it play out like a good movie? Are we seeing the transformation of our customer into the hero?
And that would be a great exercise. Write that out and just say, if this was a super short movie, write it on one piece of paper and just visualize your best, most favorite client and think about what they were thinking and experiencing before they met you, what they were thinking and experiencing as they met you, and what they experienced and believed after the work was done. Writing that out tells you the transformation, tells you whether or not it's an interesting story, and whether, I guess it is a story, because it really needs to have those three parts to it
And
to
and
complete
and
the
it's
story.
Yeah, and it's a short story. It's a condensed story. You're not going to spend 2 hours. But I actually, going back to your original idea about newborn photography, and combining that with my take on it, I find myself thinking about how many songs have been written about father and son relationships, and could I go back and revisit the lyrics of a song and see how songwriters are telling complete stories in maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And so I think we can, if it sounds like a song, if it looks like a movie in our head as we're putting this together, we're probably on the right path with our marketing.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Morning Hedgehog podcast. For show notes or to submit a question or comment, please visit www.themorninghedgehog.com.